Kick and chase by Mullins. Kick and chase again by Mullins. It'll be a miracle. Oh, it is a miracle. Fafita tries to crash his way over. He does. Fafita got the ball over the line.
Hunter's kick is over the sideline for a 40-20.
Yeah, g'day champions and welcome to 40-20 Sports. On today's episode, we are going to be running through our ultimate cheapie guide. We're going to be looking at all the cheapies that are priced from 350k under. I think that's roughly about where the start zone is that we consider cheapies to go along to mid-ranges. So 350k and under is what we're looking at today. Before we get into that, again, we want to promote our 40-20 Cup League. The code for that is 122155. We've got first, second, and third prizes for that. First prize is $500. Second prize, 250 bones. Third prize is, of course, a merch pack. We keep harping on about that, I know, but please go and join that. We want to build this little community that we've got going. The only thing you need to do to be eligible for that is either follow us on Instagram or subscribe to us on YouTube. Do one of the two. Look, it's a lot easier if you are following us on Instagram. It's just a bit easier to communicate with people. The notifications seem to come through a lot better than what they do on YouTube. YouTube's a bit of a tricky beast to navigate with comments and interactions more than what Instagram is. Anyway, we will get into it. For the first price range we are looking at is 350k to 300k. Number one on our list, by no means in any preference order. This is just highest price to lowest price. Phoenix Crossland, 341k, 35-point average. He will look like he is going to start at hooker for the Newcastle Knights there. Probably got the jump on Brayley. Brayley's been demoted from the leadership group there and shopped around to other clubs. So Phoenix Crossland more than likely gets the number 9 jersey. Brayley has been named this week's trial as the number 14 jersey just to watch there. I have no idea why they would pick Brayley at the 14. He's purely a 9. So the only thing I can think of is they're going to put Brayley there and possibly put Phoenix Crossland into a lock position. Give him a breather from hooker, but maybe put Brayley in there. But again, I'm not too sure about that. That'll be one that I will want to sit and watch throughout the year, see how that plays out. Does have Jules, halfback hooker, which are nice. But again, Brayley on the bench. If he does get that bench role, I'll probably put a line through Phoenix Crossland. Jesse Arthurs, CTW, 341k, 35-point average on last season up there at the Broncos. Look, he's a bit of a weird one. Hasn't averaged any more than 40 in his 6 years of his NRL career, which is very, very disappointing. But arguably, two of his biggest games, the grand final of 2023 and just recently playing for the Māori All-Stars, his best games by far. It seems the bigger the occasion, the better he plays. So, look, the numbers say not a good buy with that being 341k, nothing over 40 for 6 years. But the eye test in big games, grand final and the All-Stars game, he looks like a superstar. Won the man of the match there for the All-Stars game. So I can't knock it if you want to go there for 341k. I think a decent buy, but I would be looking at him when he has a better run, when he has cheaper oppositions, easier oppositions that he's playing. I would not be getting him at the start of the season. I think he is probably a sit and wait for the first 2 games. If he brains it, looks like he's going to kill it, I would jump all over him because he is a very, very good football player. Cobra Hetherington, keeping it at the Broncos there. He is 2RF, 338k, 34-point average on last year. Look, the rumours seem to be true. He looks like he is going to run into that lock role with Paddy Carrigan jumping in to the front row forward. I like him. Looks super busy in the first trial. Job security looks very safe if they're going to run Paddy Carrigan and Payne Haas in the front row there. Averaged just 40 minutes last year, so fingers crossed he gets a bit of an uptick in that. I would imagine if they're going to start him at lock, he will be looking at a minimum 50 to 60, somewhere in there. Probably won't play the 80. I probably don't see his game going to those sort of heights. But had 6 games. He played over 50 minutes. He averaged 45 points a game. So he's based on a 34-point average. So it's a decent uptick there if he can get around that 50-minute mark. Potentially has room to grow on 50 minutes. You know, if he gets 55, 60, we might be looking at a 50-point average, something around there. So could be a good little cash grab there at 338k. Matty Nicholson, 336k, 2RF lands at the Raiders from Super League. Look, he looked fantastic in the opening trials for the Raiders. Rumours are that Zach Hosking, though, is right to go for round one in Vegas. I probably think that Zachy Hosking gets the jump on him for that second row role there at the Raiders, vacated by Elliott Whitehead. So I'd probably lean towards not going him. But again, if Zach Hosking is fit and Matty Nicholson does get that starting edge role, I'll be all over him. 336k. Looks everything a superstar in the making. So I'll be jumping on him if named. Lewis Dodd, 336k as well. He is halfback for the Rabbitohs, Also comes over from the Super League. I was reasonably inclined to pick him as my backup halfback because I was going to go a gun and a cheapie. But now the news of no Murray, no Latrell, Cody Walker isn't right for round one. He's got a calf injury and he's mid-30s, so that could linger on for God knows how long. Campbell Graham's racing the clock. There's just Shaq Mitchell's come out. He's got an issue as well. He's going to miss a couple of weeks. There is just a lot of firepower that he was going to start in his Arsenal, and I was still a bit iffy on him. But now that he's got all these guns missing, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I'm not sure where their points are going to come from. I did a predicted top 8 last weekend, and I predicted that the Rabbitohs were going to get about 5th. Now I probably don't see them getting in the 8 with all these injuries, even though they are to start the season. You know, Murray's gone for the season. Latrell probably not back to anywhere between round 6 and 8. Cody Walker, it just reeks of what happened last year to the Rabbitohs. So Lewis Dodd for me is a watch. I think he's an avoid for the start of the season. But again, if he does brain it, we can jump on him pretty easy. He's 336k. If you pick him and he does absolutely dog shite, it'll be very hard to get up to a gun from him. Emre Gula is our next one on our list. 331k. He is front row forward. Goes from the Raiders up to the Dragons there. Look, I think it's a fantastic signing for the Dragons. Obviously, with the Molo issues going on there, it's a very good signing by them. They've been very proactive. Emre Gula has been stuck behind arguably one of the most star-studded front row forward pack that is there down there at the Canberra Raiders. So I think it's good that he branches out and gets a bit of game time, gets a bit of consistency in his first grade game time. It looks like he's got the starting role there from the first 2 trials being named there. Just not sure if he has too friendly a game for Supercoach. Very meat and potatoes, hit-ups, tackles, very good at getting on his knees and producing like quick play the balls and stuff like that. He's a massive body though. He doesn't usually get an arm free. Tackle busting isn't really his thing. He's just very meat and potatoes for me. So I'm going to go elsewhere. I think there's other cheapie options there that you can look forward to getting on. And yeah, I would dodge Emre Gula, but I do think for the Dragons part, a very good signing for them. Sua Wong, 318k, 2RF from the Chookies. He's based on a 32-point average from last year. Has been named twice in the trials now in the 13 jersey with Radley moving to the edge by the looks of it. Radley did play a lot of footy on the edge towards the back end of last season, so we've got to take that into account. Look, I haven't seen a lot of him playing lock, but he is based on last year at only a 34-minute average per game. So look, he could see a significant rise if we liked what we saw from the stats from Kobe Hetherington getting some game minutes. Round 2 of the trials for the Roosters, he got about 60 minutes there. He played a bit of everywhere though. He did play lock, front row, back row sort of thing, but was out there for 60 minutes. So, I like the look of him. He's got a bit more upside than what I think Kobe Hetherington does, and he is a little bit cheaper. So if you're tossing up between the two, I think wait and see what happens for round 1. But I like the look of Sua Wong. Just the 3 games where he played over 40 minutes last year for scores of 46 in 52 minutes, 57 in 40 minutes, and 39 in 54 minutes. So across those 3 games, he averaged 47 points a game, which is very good. He still didn't have huge minutes there, but if he can creep up around that 55, 60 minute mark, we could be looking at a decent average. I think he's a good option there, Sua Wong. Billy Smith, sticking with the Chookies, 317k. He's in the centre wing position. Look, shocking horror run for this fella. He's done his what they're talking about. He's done his hip this time, so he'll be out for round 1. Had a 54-point average in 2023, playing 14 games. Mind you, 14 games is the most this man has ever strummed together in his career of playing rugby league in a season. So, yeah, look, the Roosters love him. That's well documented. It'll just be interesting to see how Nwanganita sort of goes in that centre role. I've said I'm a bit sceptical on him. His defence was quite poor against the Dragons. Big trial coming up for him against the Knights this week. He's got his work cut out for him there. Look, I think Billy Smith will probably be a bit of an option later on in the season. Maybe not even too later on in the season, but if he gets himself right and healthy, Nwanganita starts struggling a little bit with that centre role. Also, the other centre that they've got there is Robert Toya. He is a rookie. We'll get to him later, but I think they probably see Billy Smith as a bit of a safer bet there in that centre wing position there for the Chuggies. So keep an eye on him, but he will not be there for round 1. Peter Mamazelis, 302k. He is hooker from Souths. Look, last year averaged 1.1 points per minute, which is fantastic. Look, if he runs at 60 minutes a game, I can't see him going for 80. I think that's very unlikely with the likes of Jamie Humphries and the likes of Savili Havili on the bench there. I think 60 minutes is probably more realistic. If he gets around the 60 minutes, he could average about 50 points per game there. Only played the 4 games where he got over 55 minutes last year for a 60-point average. That was towards the back end of the season, though, where points do sort of come a little bit easier, Supercoach-wise, than they do at the start of the season. So don't expect anything too crash hot for him. Look, he was, at the start of the year, he was one of the most popular people picked in that 2 cheapie spot that people were sort of running with there at hooker. Even if they were running 1 cheapie there, Peter Mamazelis was in a little bit of a battle there with Sandon Smith for that cheapie role. He seems to have died off a little bit with the news of all these injuries, which I can fully understand. It'll just be interesting to see what happens with all these other hookers that are cheap coming into it. I think if Peter Mamazelis gets 60 minutes, he could be a bit of an option, but again, I'm not sure that I would start with him based on all this firepower and strike power that's going to be missing there for round 1, possibly 2, 3, and like Cam Murray for the rest of the season. So I think I did have him in my initial side, but I think now with all these injuries, I think he may be a bit of an avoid for the start of the season, unfortunately. Moving on to our next guys, we've been looking at the 300k to 250k. So we're getting even cheaper now, and the first bloke we're going to look at is Jake Targo, 281k CTW from Parramatta. Look, I think he'll lock down a wing spot with Bailey Simonson being held back from his ACL injury, they have said, from round 4. So you could get 4 games out of Jake Targo, which could be 2 price rises. Probably don't like him as a long-term option, but again, the cheapies in the CTW spot this year seem to be very, very thin. So 281k is a little bit of a bargain for a cheapie there in that spot. I'm not massive on his game. He doesn't have a high base, doesn't particularly offload, doesn't tackle bust well. He had 7 games last year and top scored with 54 points, so he doesn't exactly have a high ceiling. He had a streak of 3 games where he did score tries in all 3 of those games. His scores were 40, 33 and 40. So, look, he'll probably have a green tick next to his name for round 1, but I reckon he's a massive avoid, so don't go there. Sione Fainu, Finau, it could be, from the Dragons there, 279k CTW. Played just the 1 game of first grade last year and scored 57 points. I think he is the opposite to what we were talking about with Targo. He's a very, very friendly Supercoach game on him. Look, looks to have earned a spot in the Charity Shield and played there for round 1 trial for the Dragons. There is Tyrell Sloan looking to come back into that squad. Not exactly sure what's going on with him. Maybe a niggling injury. I'm not 100% up to date with my Tyrell Sloan homework. So if you know, let me know in the comments of what is going on with Tyrell Sloan. But look, I think if Finau, if he does get that spot and it's cemented there, he's got a fair bit of pedigree behind him. In 2024, his New South Wales Cup stats were very, very good. He scored 13 tries in 15 games and averaged 141 metres. Look, if he gets the spot, he could be a decent option. But again, we really need to see what's going on with Tyrell Sloan for that wing spot. I did have Shaq Mitchell here as a bit of an option, 270k, but he is out with an injury for the first half of the season. If he does come good for the back half, we'll run with this. Just the 6 games last year and just 11 in 2023, so he is very injury prone. Average just 31 minutes a game, but look, the Rabbits are very, very light on in their middles. There's a bit of a whisper that they're going to pick David Clemmer up from the Tigers. They do have Tavita Totola to come back, so maybe he loses a bit of minutes there, but I thought he was very impressive in the Indigenous game. So, look, maybe a bit of value there. He is cheap at 270k, but we need to see what's going on with this injury. Sticking with the Rabbits there, Josh Schuster. He is 265k in the 2RF position. Comes over from Manly to the Rabbits, but I think he is a massive avoid. 24% picked in Supercoach teams so far. I think that is going to plummet. Look, apparently he doesn't look 100% fit. He does have a niggling calf injury that he's had. Seems he's had that for 2 years now. Daily Telegraph broke a story on him saying that there's people around him that think he may have lost the love for the game and whatnot. Look, in that pecking order of that Rabbitohs back row, whereas probably where we want him to play and where he probably would play if he was going to play anywhere, he's got the likes of Tallis Duncan, Keon Kalamatangi, Ewan Aitken, Lockie Hubner is probably ahead of him as well. Even though there is some injuries there, I still think he's way, way down in the pecking order. I doubt he gets into 17 unless there is an incredible amount of injuries, which, you'd hope not for the Rabbitohs fans. 24% of coaches having him in their team. I reckon that'll go down to 1 or 2% by the start of season, so I would be avoiding Josh Schuster. Jackson Purdue, 257k is a CTW from the Cowboys. Has a 26-point average last year on 35 minutes. Look, he's set to land a centre spot there up in the Cowboy land in North Queensland. It's nearly all but guaranteed, apparently, coming from Toddy Payton. Val Holmes leaving there, so looks to have got his vacated position there on the centre. Coming off the bench last year, had very limited minutes in most of his games, but there were a couple of games there, 3 games where he played more than 70 minutes, and he had an average of 56 points per game. So, look, I think he'll be in most sides. He's a very popular option, 257k, very cheap. Like I said, we sort of aren't spoilt for choice this year with these bottom dollar CTWs, it seems. So 250k, that's about as cheap as you're going to get, apart from a few special ones. But I like him. I think the Cowboys will probably struggle this year. But again, his best position is probably halfback. He's a noted halfback. But like I said, 56-point average, 70 minutes plus for the 3 games there. It's worth taking a risk on. All right, next price range, 250k to 200k. There's a good couple of options in these ones. Number 1, Royce Hunt. He is 249k, front row forward from the Tigers. Look, I wasn't overly keen on him, but he did play pretty good in the Maori All-Stars game. I just finished watching the Parramatta Tigers game. Geez, he runs the ball hard, especially off the kickoffs. He's a dominant. He's fucking massive as well. Like, he's got cannons on him. Saw him sitting on the bench next to a couple of blokes there. He absolutely dwarfed them. Did have a PPM at the Sharkies of 1.1, and look, he was only sitting around about 30 minutes per game average. So I'm not expecting him to be this world beater who starts front row forward for him. Even though it looks like David Clemmer is on the outer, I still see him being around that 35 to 40 minute mark. But again, with a 1.1 ppm, I think he could end up around 400k, possibly, at some stage of the year after maybe stringing together a good couple of games. Might be a long-winded thing. He might not get there until about round 9 or 10 for that 400k, but still, I think he's a bit of a safe bet. He's going to play every single week. His job security is safe. Just want to see what his minutes are in round 1, 2, and 3 before probably jumping on him. Although, you know, if you're stacked in the front row forward and you don't want to spend any more money, I think 250k there is probably a decent option. Sandon Smith, 237k. He is hooker/fullback duels from the Chookies. The duels are really nice. With the price, he basically picks himself. He should be starting 5'8", barring a miracle there. He is there for both trials there for the Chookies. Looks set to kick goals as well, which is very, very handy. Didn't play too well in the first trial, but look, He does have a little bit of experience there for 80-minute games. He is priced on a 32-minute average there for the Chooks on last season. Had the 2 games for 80 minutes last year with scores of 88 and 51. So there is a little bit of upside there. Look, he probably isn't going to be the dominant halves player with Chad Townsend there, but I still think he's going to see a bit of ball. I think people are underestimating the Chooks. I still think they've got a fantastic forward pack, fantastic back line. It's just their halves and their hooker. Connor Watson, he's decent, but he's very unproven as a season-long hooker. So, look, I think 237k is going to be worth the risk. I think most people are going to pick him in their sides. He will be in mine. He just may be one that will try and move on after a good couple of games if he does get that. Jesse McLean, 234k CTW from Penrith. He is in a 2-way battle with his brother for a wing spot at Penrith for round 1 over in Vegas. Good thing is, I think whichever brother gets that wing position, I don't think there'll be any chopping and changing for the first couple of weeks. So if Jesse does seem to land that, 234k, I think he will be a decent option. I think his job security will be safe for the first couple of weeks. The Penrith Panthers, they don't build themselves over chopping and changing, so they'll stick with him if he is in that position. Look, yes, his brother bagged 4 tries for the Kiwis against PNG in the Pacific Championships. That has been very well documented. His brother Casey is an out-and-out centre, though. I understand he got the jump over Jesse only because Jesse had an injury which prevented him from making that squad. But look, if Jesse McLean is in that back line for Penrith Panthers, that is one of the most prized places you could have a cheapie. I think he'll 100% be in nearly everyone's team at 234k. Just needs to get the jump on his brother Casey. So that's Jesse McLean we're looking at there. Jack Gajewski, 232k 2RF for the Brisbane Broncos, is a wild old smoky to get that edge roll along with Jordan Ricky there. He seems to have beaten out Piakura somehow. Look, I'm not too sure about Gajewski. I owned him a couple of years ago when he somehow fluked a bloody same position 2RF spot out at the Cowboys there. I owned him and it was nothing but misery. Took a punt on him then. I probably will not be taking a punt on him this year. I'll be waiting for a few weeks to see how it all plays out. He didn't have a huge engine. He sort of moped around for 60 minutes. He didn't take a lot of runs, doesn't make a lot of tackles. He has no offload. He has no tackle bust ability. He doesn't score a lot of tries. He's just a guy that you can probably sit out on that edge and he'll be 98% efficiency with his tackles, which is probably what he wants, which is probably what the coach out there from the Broncos wants, Madge. I just don't see a lot of upside in it. He doesn't have a very friendly Supercoach game. He's obviously very safe in defence. We know that, and that's obviously why he's been getting picked over Brendan Priakura. But again, even at the price, I think there's better options out there. We'll get to them as well. Corey Pakes, 232k hooker from the Broncos as well. Look, injury to Blake Mozer probably bumps his stocks up, and he should get the hooking role there at Red Hill. The only drama I have with Corey Pakes is I'm more inclined to think that there will be a hooker on the bench for him. He doesn't strike me as an 80-minute hooker. He seems like... Look, it's hard to say even how many minutes he's going to get. He may get 65 minutes, he may get 40 minutes, he may get 80 minutes. I have no idea how that is all going to work out. I'm sure that there's blokes like Billy Wilders that could jump on at 9. Smoothie could jump on at 9 as well. And there's also the fact that Benny Hunt is more than likely going to move into that role once Ezra Mam is due back from his suspension. So, look, if there is no other hooker named and Corey Pakes is there, I think 100% you should jump on him at 232k. If there is a backup hooker on the bench, I kind of think it's a bit of an avoid and could be a bit of a trap, especially if he only is there playing 40-45 minutes. Tom Amone, 232k front row forward from the Dogs. He has been named on the bench in New South Wales Cup, so you can get him right out of your squad immediately. We won't talk about him any further. Savelio Tamale, 232k winger for the Canberra Raiders. Should get the jump round 1 off to Vegas, but I think it's been pretty well documented that he is potentially only there because Albert Hopewade is looking to stay home to be there for the birth of his first child, which is totally acceptable, I think, nowadays. Look, I wouldn't be jumping on him just because of the risk of Albert Hopowate's jumping back. Albert Hopewade played absolutely phenomenal in the trials as well, so he's done himself absolutely no favours of jumping straight back into that spot round 2. I think Tamale will be a wait and see. I would probably be waiting until the end of round 2 if he's scored well and looks to, if Albert Hopewade is playing in resis, then I would jump on. But to start with, all the speculation about Albert Hopewade just missing purely because he wants to be there for the birth of his first child is probably a bit too much of a risk for me. This one will wrap into Jacob Laban and Dimitri Valmaga at 232k. They're both there. They're both 2 RFs for the Warriors. Look, I think Laban is Laban. I don't know how to pronounce it. Laban is probably more likely to start on that edge role than Valmaga. Valmaga has a bit more of a dominant impact coming off the bench, much like a Spencer Lenu, but with a bit more of a higher work rate. Look, I think Laban is probably going to start there if anyone does start. Just to keep an eye on Murata Niokore, he came on and started in both trials, I believe. If not, he was on there for the first 10, 15 minutes. I would be surprised if neither of these guys start, even if one of them is named. I think Niokore probably runs into that starting squad. Jacob Labani, he will get the starting role, I think, over Valmaga if it's between those two. I just think you really need to be onto it with an hour out from start of kickoff for this game over in Vegas. That's the beauty of having either one of these two, though. They will be one of the first games of the round. You will get to see what's going on for round 0, what they will say for Vegas. I've changed my bloody pronunciation of his name about 6 times already. If Laban gets the jump roll there, if he is named to start, kickoff, ready to go in the 11 or 12 jersey, I would be starting with him. If Murata Niokore comes into that side and Laban moves back to the bench, Valmaga is still on the bench, I would probably go with Valmaga just because his points per minute is absolutely ridiculous. Valmaga, just the 18 minutes average last year for the 4 games there, so he didn't have a great deal of games there. Has a massive PPM of 1.6, which is out of this world. Look, if he gets some minutes into his legs, he could be anything. Could be a good little cash cow. Even if he gets about 30 minutes, we could be looking at about 40 to 45 points. So, trial really well, round 1 for the trials there. Had a nice little offload, which led to a try there for Valmaga. So, look, I'm more inclined to go him just because there probably won't be that stress about is he in, is he out. I think he will start from the bench regardless of what's going on with Laban and Murata Niokore. So, more inclined to go Valmaga over Laban. Charlie Geimer, 232k. He is a second row forward there for Parramatta. 13% ownership, which is pretty high, I think. Look, there's a lot of talk about him because last year he had a fantastic debut. Also had a fantastic first half of his second game until he was cruelled by an ankle injury. I just think he's a little bit down the pecking order. Started the first trial in the 13 jersey, which looked really promising. Parramatta, a little bit more full strength in their forward pack. Still not 100% full strength in their forward pack, but still, he was a little bit down in the pecking order there for me. So I would be looking at other options there instead of Charlie Geimer. Isaiah Yongi, 232k fullback for the Parramatta Eagles. What a decisive little talking point this man has been and will continue to be throughout the competition, I believe. Look, he first half of tonight's game against the Tigers, he had a blinder, scored a try, good tackle busts, running hard, set another one up on the left-hand side there, good cutout ball. The second half was just a polar opposite of what the first half was. He looked a little bit gassed in the opening minutes, had a few mistakes there. So, look, I'm not sure what is going on there with the Iongi train. Well documented, he has a massive motor, very good with his tackle busts, very good with his metres gained. He's super busy. But last year in New South Wales Cup, the last 17 games, he had 1 try and 1 try assist. Last 17 games, he still did win New South Wales Cup Player of the Year. I'm not sure how he did that with stats like that. It must just be basically all on his work ethic. I I'm worried about his upside. It was a little bit nice seeing tonight the sneaky little break line break there into a try. Also the cutout ball that led to a line break assist and try assist. I was fully off him until Latrell Mitchell's gone down for the first couple of weeks, or first couple of months really, Latrell will be out for. I was looking at a fullback system of Tom Trbojevic, Kalen Ponga, Latrell Mitchell. I think now that Latrell's out, it's a little bit more tricky to pick up another gun fullback. I think Isaiah Yongi's stocks probably rise for 232k. I can see a little bit more of a world there where you want to pick him. I think even for the first 6 weeks, you just need an escape plan for him. If Iongi goes down in the first 2 or 3 weeks and you've got this bloody 232k fullback sitting on the fucking pine and all these other guys have got Reece Walsh's, Pongers, Turbos, even Dylan Edwards, Pappenhausens and that, it is a long way to get to any of them at 232k when you're down. I think I'm bigger on him now that Latrell's out and seeing that he does have a couple of attacking options in him, but I'm still not fully convinced. I think it'll be a bit of a late minute see if he makes my side or not. Robert Derby comes in at 214k. He is a winger up there from the Cowboys. Look, I think it's a bit of a stretch for him to get the round 1 spot. I think Braden Burns is probably going to collect that one, but keep an eye on him. He is a freak. He is lightning quick. He breaks tackles, he scores tries for fun. I would be keeping him in a little black book. Probably won't get the jump for round 1, but if there is an injury, I think he will be the number 1 man that slots into that back line up there at the Cowboys. All right, moving on. These are our bottom dollar guys. These are 200k and under. These are all 198ks. They're bottom dollar cheapies. These are the guys that we are just hoping and praying that get a start with our sides so we can upgrade our other players there. We'll start with Owen Paddy, 198k hooker from the Raiders. Had an absolute blinder in the round 1 trials. Scored a double, looked phenomenal, looked the goods. Super busy in defence. Ran the ball really well out of hooker, very strong. Probably sits behind Levi and Starling at the very moment for round 1 anyway, for that starting position for hooker, even that bench position for hooker. I think that's probably fair. I think taking a rookie hooker over to Vegas, the lights, the whole interaction with the fans and what seemed to happen last year, I think taking Owen Paddy over there and giving him a start is probably a big stretch. Fingers crossed that change when he comes home and he's a bit more comfortable environment at Canberra. So he could be all the answers for the Raiders' woes at hooker, because this thing with Tommy Starling and Danny Levi there is not working at all for them. Cody Hopwood, 198k front row forward from the Knights. He's pretty well owned for Supercoaches there. Look, he's touted as the next Paul Harrigan there up at the Knights, the next Chief. And the Knights have wrapped him up in the longest deal that they've got anyone booked in there at the club so far. So he's on a massive deal with the Knights at the moment. He was by far their best player in Jersey Flegg. Went and watched him in the trial. Good efforts in defence. He saved a couple of tries, back-to-back tackles on the defensive line. Huge lump of a lad. I think he's only 18 at the moment, so even when the season is starting, he'll only be 19 years old. Probably doesn't get a spot for round 1, but they are so fucking light up there at Newcastle. It is ridiculous. Few injuries, he could find himself into a bench role there, so keep an eye on him at 198k. Moving on to the next guy, he is from the Newcastle Knights as well. He is in the 2RF spot, but he will be a front row forward, is Tyrone Thompson. 198k, like we said, cheapie. Twin of Leo Thompson. The Knights, like I'm saying, they've lost DSAF, Daniel Safidi. They're going to lose Leo Thompson at the end of the season. The only real strike weapon they've got in the front row forward is Jacob Safidi. They are from 2026 onwards, I wouldn't be surprised if they see this as a year to try and get Tyrone Thompson to sort of emulate what Leo Thompson has done and try and get him to mould into his brother by 2026. Look, I'm very sceptical if he starts for round 1. He is way down in the pecking order for what's been picked there for the Knights there. But he does have some pedigree. 22 appearances for the Chiefs in the Super Rugby and featured in the Maori All Blacks, on 3 appearances. So he's no slouch. I've watched a few of his highlights. It's very hard to gauge highlights from what is rugby union to rugby league. But look, he looked to hold his own there. He looked to be the bloke that they went to for a crash play. Looked to tackle well, hit the ball up well. Didn't get to see too much of him in the round 1 trial there against Parramatta, but again, he seemed to run the ball back hard. He seemed decent. I think good couple of weeks down in New South Wales Cup. Maybe towards the end of the year, he might be a bit of an option there. From the Cowboys, Tom Duffy, 198k halfback, fighting for a spot with Jake Clifford. He looks to have the jump on him for the round 3 trial here, although a lot of speculation here. He's got the spot. I'm still a little bit sceptical on it. Jake Clifford is just coming off a hernia surgery, which isn't anything major. He's got no lasting injuries from that. Toddy Payton came out and basically said, look, the only reason he's not getting a run and Taumalolo aren't getting a run this week is because they're just a little bit underdone, haven't got the Ks in the legs. So whether that means they're going to be right and have a bit more Ks under the legs for round 1, I'm not sure. But my God, if Tom Duffy gets this position, 198k, you cannot start without him. Very different Queensland Cup to NRL, no disputing that. But these are his stats. Queensland Cup for last year, he had 22 games for Northern Pride. He had 5 tries, 33 try assists, 20 line break assists, and 10 forced dropouts. He kicks goals, which is a massive tick. He may even get the goal kicking duties over Drinkwater if that's the case. And he had a tackle efficiency of 90%. I'm not sure what Jake Clifford's tackle efficiency is, but I bet my ass it is not 90%. Even if he gets Tom Duffy in there for his tackle durability and his defensive prowess alone, I think it's a good option. Again, Queensland Cup, NRL, totally different beast, but geez, the stats, 33 try assists, 20 line break assists, 90% tackle efficiency for a half, that's phenomenal in any competition. If he's named for round 1, I'm probably going to go him, I think, for round 1. If he's in there, he's cheap enough, he's a good option. Loco Pacifica Tonga, front row forward for the Dragons there. Look, he seems to be a little bit down on the pecking order as well, has a massive future ahead of him. If it wasn't for the signings of Emre Gula and, Emre Gula, I would be a lot more higher on this guy than what I actually am. Also, Eisenhuth hasn't played in any of the trials either, so Jack DeBellin has been playing lock. He could move back into the front row forward there. Yeah, I think he is going to have a huge future. He's a beast. He's fucking massive. He looks to have an offload. He's a mini Payne Haas from when he was getting around in his younger days when he first debuted. But yeah, I think huge future for him. Just keep a little lookout for him in the next couple of months. If there are injuries, he may get a spot. We're going to finish it with probably the most highly owned man in all of Supercoach this year. It is Robert Toya, 198k CTW from the Roosters. Look, in the frame to get the starting centre spot, I think he's all but got it for round 1. All the exits there that they have had, he should walk straight into that position there for round 1. He is an under-19s Maroon player, representative, crippled by ACL injuries. ACL injury after ACL injury. Last year was no exception. Look, talked up heavily by James Tedesco. He said he's the one to watch. He's super impressed with how he is looking. Even despite all the injuries, the Roosters, they must fucking love him because he has signed a 2-year extension. He's never played a game of NRL and he is just absolutely busted. Look, yeah, like I said, named to start in both games there for the trials. It looks really, really good. He's got great job security, I think. Like we were talking about with Billy Smith. If Billy Smith is right, I do think Nwanga-Nitawaze is the one to drop it out, not Robert Toya. Robert Toya is a noted centre. Just a high work rate, good tackle busts, gets an offload, super low the ground. Just looks like a version of Greg Marzu. He's identical, but you're getting this guy for bottom dollar, 198k. So I think he should be in everyone's team. That is probably going to wrap it up. Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded for you. You got a little bit of an idea of the guys to look out for, especially coming into Team List Tuesday for Round 0 Vegas and Round 1. Again, we're going to promote our 40-20 Cup. The code for that is 122-155. First, second, and third prizes going for that one. First, $500. Second, $250. Third spot will get a merch pack. To be eligible for that, you have to be following us on Instagram or subscribed to our YouTube channel. Righto, legends, that's all we got time for. Take care, look after each other, and we'll see you next week. Ta.